Apologies for the delay on this video after my week away being ill. For those of you who didn't know, I also didn't have a voice then, but I'm now finally back to deliver on this Contenders Gauntlet video that I've been promising for quite a while. After 5 days of intense and entertaining action, the Gauntlet has drawn to a close. 10 of the top Contenders teams from around the world entered, but only one left as champions. The best and brightest stars from a Tier 2 scene got a chance to demonstrate their skills on the stage, with many now being earmarked and enticed by organisations for promotion into the Overwatch League for the 2020 season. For today's video though, I want to break down who I thought personally were a couple of the winners and losers from the Gauntlet, as I recap what went down, whilst also pointing out the best players and matches which I strongly recommend you go back to watch if you didn't get the chance already. The easiest place to start therefore is by pointing out arguably the biggest losers from the Gauntlet, which in my eyes were the European and Chinese Contenders regions being represented at this event by HSL Esports and LG Huya respectively. The pair came into the Gauntlet as underdogs, but there was at least a small sense of optimism that perhaps they could put on a good showing for themselves. The opposite came true. I won't deny that they certainly put up some decent displays in their matches, but with both sides being knocked out of the Gauntlet after back-to-back 3-0 defeats in the group stage, in reality, aside from LAN experience, a case could be made that very few positives can be found. The fact that neither side were able to pick up even a single map highlighted the golfing class between themselves and the other attending regions, which had already been foreshadowed at both the Atlantic and Pacific showdowns a few months back. And at this point, I think it's apparent that the only major Contenders regions at this moment in time are North America and Korea. This makes the European and Chinese Contenders regions the biggest losers, as it's now clear that when Overwatch League teams scout for Tier 2 talent, their first focus will presumably be on these top two regions, and as we've already seen happen, it's likely that top talent from especially Europe will likely be incentivized to move over to North American contenders for a better chance of furthering their career, increasing the risk that this gap in quality increases in 2020. Well, I'd be interested to hear what you all think about this statement, and what steps you think these Contenders regions need to take in order to improve. Of course, now that we know that these teams were eliminated from the Gauntlet in the groups, it makes sense to quickly recap how they otherwise panned out. Aside from my overly optimistic hopes for HSL Esports, everything panned out pretty much exactly how I anticipated in terms of the team seedings once groups ended. Beginning with Group A, Element Mystic predictably went on to take top spot after winning their first two matches, first versus Talon Esports and then against XL2 Academy, whilst Talon went on to take second place after defeating XL2 Academy after eliminating HSL Esports. Whilst the final positions weren't that surprising to me personally, the actual scorelines in some of these series certainly were. In the first match of the Gauntlet, a brilliant performance by Talon Esports saw them take Element Mystic all the way to 5 maps in an eventual 3-2 defeat. This is a team I'll be talking about in more detail shortly, but their performance here was nothing short of brilliant, with Pattyfan getting the better of Sparkle early on the Doomfist. If it hadn't been for a late resurgence from Element Mystic, led by a great Sigma display from Hanbin, we were close to having what would have been the upset of the tournament. The other game that I'd recommend you go and watch would be the losers final between Talon Esports and XL2 Academy, which also went to 5 maps and showed the real quality and potential of these two perhaps underrated sides heading into the Gauntlet. I'll discuss it a little later, but a couple of the standout players from either side were Bashful from Talon, who came in clutch right at the death of his Reaper play, and Speedily from XL2, who at times was unmovable on the Bastion. As for Group B, things panned out very expectedly, with Gen G coming out in first, followed by Team Envy in second, and the Gladiators Legion in third. Despite hopes of improvement from their fans, LG Huya were eliminated with ease, whilst Team Envy twice overcame the Gladiators Legion comfortably, which given their seedings within North America was not at all surprising. The main note to point out from Group B, however, was how close the series between Team Envy and Gen G ended up being. This was yet another match that went the distance of 5 maps, after a great initial comeback from Envy despite being 2-0 down, even if they did fall short in the end. Highlights from this series were plentiful, but specific mention should go to players like Stalker on the side of Gen G, and Sharp from Team Envy, even bringing out a Widowmaker that completely caught his opponents off guard. Returning now to my winners and losers though, my first winners from the Gauntlet that I want to discuss are XL2 Academy and Talon Esports. I think it's only right that I discuss XL2 first, as I didn't have them coming out of groups, even if that was only to satisfy my EU hopes and dreams. Whilst I personally underrated them, I don't think the majority of people would have expected this team to so dominantly put aside Team Envy 3-0 and establish themselves as clearly as a number 2 team from North America, having come in as the 3rd seed with low expectations. Their DPS pairing of KSP and Speedily was consistently strong throughout the tournament, but also showed a great level of flexibility, in particular few Western teams were able to replicate, with their Bastion setups often causing a lot of damage. Their following round loss to Atlanta Academy was expected, but they can leave with their heads held very high, with a lot of positives to build upon moving forward. What about Talon Esports? As some of you will know, I've been in love with this team since I researched their last Contender season, and I was particularly high on them heading into the Gauntlet, despite others having lower expectations. They rewarded my faith with brilliant displays match after match, with their only 2 losses coming via Game 5s to Korean opposition. That alone should highlight how amazing this team is, considering the lack of competition coming from their own otherwise weak region beside themselves. People know Pattyfan from the Thailand World Cup team, but he's just gifted at the DPS position and was a joy to watch, even pushing Sparkle to bring out the best on his Doomfist in their first match. Bashful also had a really great tournament, whilst the rest of the team brought out their best as well, working really well as a team. Their exit at the hands of Gen G was a back and forth ride that was super fun to watch, and hopefully this lovable team has won the hearts and minds of others, and isn't soon forgotten. At this point though, I should probably be recapping exactly what happened over the course of the finals bracket before the final itself. The first losers bracket matches were one-sided, with XL2 eliminating Team Envy after a 3-0, as Talon Esports did the same to the Gladiators Legion. In the winners bracket, Runaway made quick work of their Korean compatriots Gen G, before Atlanta Academy, perhaps not warmed up fully, as this was only their first game, couldn't take advantage of another mixed Element Mystic performance, falling short in another Game 5 match that is worth revisiting if you missed it. In the winners final though, the script seemed to flip as Element Mystic looks a lot more assured in their team play throughout, with Sparkle and Doha showing why they work so well together within this meta, with Doha even bringing out a signature Sombra on occasion. As for Runaway, they bounced back from a slow start to really fight tooth and nail, with Yaki, Gangnam Jin and Hisu all causing their own problems, especially with some unique Bastion setups, as well as bringing out some other surprising hero picks in Symmetra, Hanzo and Widowmaker. But in the end, it just looked like they were slightly weaker within this meta, as Element Mystic picked up the 4-2 victory, sending them through to the final. Having got past XL2 and Talon, Atlanta Academy and Gen G now squared off, and it was the NA squad that finally picked up their victory over Korean side in an impressive 3-0 manner, as they were rushing their way into form to try and get their rematch with Element Mystic. The only team that now stood in their way was Runaway, and I think that the result of this series shocked quite a few people by just how brutal it was. Before the Gauntlet, this was arguably one of the most hyped up series, and definitely one to watch that promised to be a back and forth tussle of top contenders teams. It ended 4-0, to Atlanta Academy. Right now I'm still not quite sure how this came about, but take nothing away from the final remaining representative from North America, who ever since dropping to the lower bracket were phenomenal at every position, with every player knowing their role and performing at their best. Whilst this was a sad exit for Runaway, they still put on a solid showing at the Gauntlet, at least in my opinion, and many of their players are still in line for OWL offers shortly. This therefore just leaves the grand final, and this leads me on to the obvious winner when it comes to discussing the Gauntlet, its eventual champion, Element Mystic, and the Starman Sparkle. Taking the Gauntlet completely into perspective, it would be fair to say that both him and the team at times were a little shaky, normally coinciding if their match scorelines headed into a must-win Game 5. Yet the fact that on each occasion they managed to still come out ahead triumphant should tell you this is a special team and some special talents, and when they were firing on all cylinders they just looked class, including their 4-1 finals win over Atlanta Academy. Of course, I like others will immediately point focus towards Sparkle, who's grown and developed with this organisation for years, and over the off-season will be talked about plenty. But take nothing away from the rest of the team, with players like Doha and Hanbin looking great, and those eligible will definitely be receiving some interest from the Overwatch League as we move through the off-season. They're not the only winners from this grand finals though, as I would like to make an extra mention to Atlanta Academy. Despite losing 4-1, they still put up an impressive fight that highlighted the quality that each of their members possesses, which will likely lead to interest following the Gauntlet as well. But the main reason they are a winner here, because they have achieved what arguably the best ever Western contenders team could not. A legitimate and threatening challenge to the best from Korea that saw them pick up back-to-back wins with combined scorelines of 7-0. That should not only emphasise the level of achievement for their players, but also for the coaches and the rest of the Atlanta organisation that have put them into position to succeed and established the Atlanta Academy as one of the premier contenders teams in the world, both now and potentially moving forward as well. But as my last losers from the Gauntlet, I've gone for the unfortunate players who are under 18, such as Pattyfan, Stalker, Sugarfree, as well as many others. If there's anything to take away from this tournament, it's that the future of competitive Overwatch currently looks very bright, with a number of talented upcoming prodigies. The reason I've singled them out as losers though, has nothing to do with their quality or performances, because quite simply they're insanely talented and nutty talents at their respective positions. Yet by the end of this year, these players will only be around 14, 15, or even 16 years old respectively, with the Overwatch League player age being a minimum of 18, with the same rule now being applied for the Overwatch World Cup. This is the highest level of competition these stars will be able to perform at least for the next couple of years, if not longer, which I personally think is a real shame for both them and fans, as they are certainly deserving of an opportunity to move up higher in the near future, and hopefully the rules will change to allow them to become eligible for World Cups from next year, even if I'm not keeping my hopes up for this change in the rules happening. Overall though, to wrap everything up, I think that the Gauntlet was a really great event. It had an excellent showing of entertainment and tier 2 talent that flourished at the forefront of a brilliant production effort behind the scenes, not forgetting the fantastic casting during the broadcast as well that I've been praising for a long time. In terms of my predictions, I'd have to say I'm rather pleased with myself for how things ended up, as I correctly picked the overall winner, only made one qualifying mistake in the groups, and only missed on a couple of the other matches in the finals bracket. Hopefully the Gauntlet gave both new tier 2 viewers, as well as the more seasoned ones, a great look at some of the top prospects that will likely be seeing promotions to the Overwatch League for 2020, as well as filling the void of the off-season, which now only has the Overwatch World Cup in terms of major events to go. But on that note, I'm going to end today's video, and I'd like to thank you for watching. As I mentioned on Twitter and my YouTube community feed, if there's any sorts of video ideas you'd like to see me make in the lead up to the Overwatch World Cup, then please let me know down in the comments below. But if you enjoyed and don't want to miss out on my upcoming competitive Overwatch content, then please like, subscribe and follow me on Twitter. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.